Well, welcome in, folks. You are watching First Coast News's online coverage of the trial of three men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery, we know, just 25 years old. He was shot and killed in the Cecilia Shores neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia, back in February of 2020. An arrest was not made in that case until May. Fast forward until September, we know that the Brunswick District Attorney, Jackie Johnson, she has been indicted for alleged obstruction in all of this. Now, there are a lot of layers to this case, but right now we are in October of 2021, and finally the Arbery family says that they are hopeful they will finally receive justice. Outside of the Arbery's, this is a case that has drawn a lot of attention, not just locally, but nationally as well. There are also a lot of demonstrators out there in front of the courthouse on a daily basis. Another group you'll also find there on a daily basis is the Glynn Clergy, and joining us this morning with that group is Father Dwayne Cope with Glynn Clergy for Equity. It's a group that formed pretty much after Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed, and right now they're continuing their message of pretty much setting a tone for this trial of peace. Welcome in, Father Dwayne. We appreciate you waking up with us this morning.
Good morning, Keith, and thank you for having me on today.
I want to talk a little bit about Glynn Clergy for Equity and the purpose of that group.
Yes, as you said, this group was formed in the aftermath of what happened with Ahmaud Arbery. And what we've been seeking to do is just, there are things that have been happening in the county prior to and even since then. And everybody likes to sort of brush things away and not really have conversations around what is actually going on. And part of what we've been trying to do is to bring people together to have these conversations about changes that need to happen in Glynn County for equitable changes for everyone involved.
If you can, bring us in. As outsiders, we are not privy to information that you are. Tell us about some of those changes you feel need to be put in place. So not just you, but what you're hearing from people there in the area. Give us an insight of some of the issues that you face right now, the area faces, and what needs to be done.
Yeah, we've had several conversations, and we've had a few we have labeled equity dinners. And what we see is that, here in Glynn County, and although I'm new to the county, what conversations I've been hearing is that the distribution of funding in the county seems to be not spread out equally. I guess is the best way to put it. So you'll see the areas in which where my church is located at, the funding that comes into this part is not the same as it goes out to other parts of the county. And so how do we make those changes so that everybody has a fair shot at making a decent living, having, the same chances at education? So, we're looking at schooling, we're looking at after school care, we're looking at a lot of things in which everybody doesn't have the same opportunity to take part in.
Yeah. You mentioned things being disproportionate. The poverty rate there in Brunswick in particular is close to 90%. I was speaking with Alan Booker, commissioner with Glynn County, about a month ago about that, the poverty in the area and the fact that a lot of people don't have the opportunities they likely should in comparison to other parts of Glynn County. But folks, if you're just now watching us, joining us, you are watching First Coast News' online coverage of the trial of three men charged with murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Where we are right now in the case, this is day 8, week 2 of this jury selection process. Just yesterday, we know that there were another 6 jurors that were qualified for the pool of potential jurors. Right now, the number stands at 42. What they're aiming to get to is 64 potential jurors. Once they get to that magic number of 64, then that will be whittled down to a group of 12 impartial jurors and 4 alternates. That is the ultimate goal. That is what they're aiming for. Now, in terms of the timeline, that is still up in the air, but we did hear from attorneys just yesterday, defense attorneys, saying that they believe that they can get to that number of 64 by this Friday. So by next week, the trial could actually be underway. So we're waiting to see exactly what happens with all of that. But joining us this morning is Father Dwayne Cope with Glynn Clergy for Equity, a group that is pretty much out there every day. They've been there since last week, Monday, when the jury selection process really started to get underway. I want to talk a little bit, Father Dwayne, about what you're seeing there in Brunswick outside of the Glynn County Courthouse on a daily basis. These demonstrators, you guys are out there pretty much holding their hands, praying with them, trying to set the tone for all of this.
Yes, as you mentioned, we were there since the beginning on Monday. To describe Monday, it was, no one really knew what to expect and who would actually show up. There was one group that traveled in from out of town. Names not coming to me
They're from all over
right
the
this
U.S.
second.
We've been
Brought
seeing,
down
yeah.
right, and so they brought down probably 30 or 40 people that was there with the family, and they stayed a week, and so we were there as well. We were present on the court ground yards from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And what I've been there is just cries for justice, um, justice to be served is what they were seeking. And, several people came over to the tent and just asked us to come over and pray with the family. So it was an honor to be invited over to pray with the family, to talking with two of Ahmaud's aunt are there daily outside of the courtroom from 9:30 a.m. until they leave and break for the day. In support of this, Ahmaud's father, who's going into the courthouse on a daily basis. And so just having the opportunity to spend time down there, just hearing stories from them and spending time with them and getting to know them better. As as this week, though, what we've been seeing is that the large crowds are gone, and so the true presence down there is mainly our group and the family. Several people have heard us doing interviews and telling stories about our time down there, and have reached out to us to say, well, how can we help you, and what time can we go down there? And so it's good that people are seeing the call for the community to show up in support of those who are there looking for support as they walk through this process.
Speaking of support, you guys, as you said, you've spoken with Ahmaud Arbery's family members. Two of his aunts that are present there pretty much every day. I saw them when I was down there as well. What are they telling you about their hopes moving forward in terms of all of this trial?
Uh, they're really hoping for a verdict that shows justice for their family. They're not obviously he died at a young age, and they're looking that the verdict, when it's returned at the end of the trial, that his death would not be in vain. That while it doesn't bring him back, and it's not going to take away the sting of losing him, but if they were to get a verdict of justice being served, that would put them at a little bit of ease.
Speaking of ease as well, you mentioned Ahmaud being a young man, just 25 years old. How do you even begin to try to help a family cope with a loss so great?
It's a difficult thing. What I've shared with a few other people is that where I come from is that I approach it of what would I do if if it happened to my son. I have a 16-year-old son, and so I moved here recently, and so I want my son to be able to live in a place where he feels safe.
Yeah.
And so if I were to lose my son, how would that make me feel? And I can't even wrap my mind around that. And so, approaching them, I just offer them space to just talk, to reflect, to share the good memories that they have of, him growing up, and the spirit that he had, the energy that he had, and just allowing them to enter that space of thinking about the good things that happened and not necessarily focusing too much on his death, but try to focus on his life that he had and that he lived.
You know, you arrived in Brunswick or Glynn County at an interesting time in July of 2020, just after the first arrest was made in this case
Mm-hmm.
of Ahmaud being shot and killed. As an outsider, you arrived really much as a leader of that community, and you walked in on a huge case. How do you even begin to grapple with that and handle that type of situation?
Uh, Nothing that I foresaw coming. Um,
I can imagine.
I knew where I was going. Everybody who would ask me where was I moving to, everybody wanted to know, well, where are you going? And so you tell them where you're going, and I never heard of it before. Never Brunswick, no. Say, mm-mm. I said, well, it's halfway between Savannah and Jacksonville. Okay, and still don't. I think I know where you are, and I say Ahmaud Arbery, and they're like, oh, wow. I'm praying for you as you go down there. And, what I knew I was coming for sure. I was just trying to figure out how will I fit into everything that's going on? How do I get in and figure out, what the tension is that's here? And was fortunate enough to connect with this particular group, in particular, uh,
The Glynn
Rabbi to
Clergy?
bring
Mm-hmm.
to me. And Drew Thompson from the church had reached out to me as well about a group that had been meeting to discuss equitable changes that they want to see here, and went to a few meetings, and they very early on invited me to be a part of taking more of a leadership role, and kind of felt apprehensive about it because I was new, but it gave me it also allowed me with a fresh set of eyes not to be bogged down by all of the past tension that has gone on here, but to walk in with almost with a fresh set of eyes to say, this is what I see. I've read the news clippings, I've seen the headlines, but now let me put my feet on the ground and actually see what it actually feels like to wake up daily, to walk the grounds of this city and this county, and see what people are saying, how people are feeling as it relates to this case.
Well, give us some
So it gave
insight.
me a new
What
opportunity.
was that like? I mean, tell us about what you're seeing there. You know, as a newcomer on the ground, you're talking to these people in a very intimate way. What are you hearing?
Um, you would be surprised that I think everybody was almost waiting for this time. There were some who were, you know, still sensitive towards this particular case, but for the most part, people were just sort of, we know what happened, and we just want to wait to see what the verdict will be. But everybody was sort of sort of coming together, knowing that something happened that wasn't right. And so you saw a lot of united fronts. You saw bonds being formed, conversations being had about this shouldn't happen again. And so people were really, they were upset that it happened and wanted to see change, but they weren't, you know, demonstrating demonstrating it or showing it in a way of um, I said in a recent interview, you've seen the scenes in different cities when
Mm-hmm.
things happen, but here in South Georgia, it just didn't didn't manifest that way. Let's sit down and have a conversation versus go downtown and destroy, loot, or anything else like that. But it was really a time where the community decided that it's time to come together and see what we can do to make a change here.
Yeah. Folks, if you're just now joining us, you're watching First Coast News' online coverage of the trial of three men charged with murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. You're listening right now to Father Dwayne Cope. He is a part of Glynn Clergy. Now, that is a group of about 50 clergymen all throughout Glynn County that have decided to come together. They pretty much formed right after Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed because they saw the need for some changes that were desperately needed within that community. And since things started last week, Monday, say, since the jury selection process started, you'd see a member of the Glynn Clergy out there pretty much every day with people holding their hands through all of this, because something that you'll notice if you go down there, there's a lot of demonstrators. The numbers have slowly trickled down because this process is moving at a rather slow pace, what some would say. And so they're out there pretty much every day with people holding their hands, in some cases praying, because this is weighing heavily on a lot of people within Glynn County. We understand it's a national situation. National attention is being drawn to this, but it's still something that's affecting people in a very intimate way there in Brunswick. And just to give you an update on what's going on at this point, this is now day 8, week 2 of the jury selection process, which is slowly moving along. We just heard from attorneys yesterday. They believe that by Friday, they will have the 64 potential jurors needed to choose from in order to get a 12 impartial jurors as well as 4 alternates. That's the ultimate goal that they're trying to do in order to get the trial started. This has been a long time coming, not just for the Arbery family, but for the town of Brunswick as well. And Father Dwayne is here with us to give us some insight into what people are saying there, because he's boots on the ground. He's there pretty much every day. So he has a lot of details about what people are saying, how they're feeling in that community. So again, thank you for joining us, Father Dwayne.
Oh, thank you again for having me on this morning.
Yeah. So what are your plans there? Are you planning on going back out there, or are you pretty much just waiting for things to get started, which we're expecting next week, the actual trial itself?
No. Again, as more people have reached out to us that they want to be out there and supportive of us as serving in a role of being ambassadors of peace and love and unity. I haven't been there every day this week. I did go out Monday, and I'll go out again probably tomorrow. But we just had so many people, reaching out and wanting to support this effort that we're doing, and making sure that because of the family, whoever's family is there, but making sure anyone who shows up outside there are not alone. That we're there in support of anyone who shows up. And again, a lot of times that's just mainly just being in conversation with them. If they ask us for prayer, but most of the time they just want somebody to sit there and be with them and walk with them through this process.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I've been out there a few times this week. And again, I'll probably close out today. Today is a little rainy there, so
yeah,
quite sure that someone will probably need to be there with an umbrella and poncho there, but we'll still be there showing up for those who need support.
Yeah. We tend to speak with attorneys a lot during programs such as this one, but I felt it was important to talk with members of the clergy in particular, because you guys are getting to hear the truth from people, right? So sometimes people tell you things at face value, regular folks, but with you, they feel a sense of safety to open up about what they really feel there. And you mentioned earlier a lot of tension within that community. It's underlying. A lot of people don't speak upward about it, but there is racial tension there. Mm-hmm. It does exist. And following the death of Arbery, a lot of people are talking about it even more so, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that that's an accurate statement. They are, they approach that the racial conversation very carefully. And sure, it really depends on a trust level of, if you can really get down to somebody really sharing how they truly feel about race relations in the county, and as it relates to this particular case. But we feel that, I feel, part of my role here is that when I approach people, I approach them as a fellow Christian. It's not for me to judge, but to be there to pray for those who feel broken, who feel the need to maybe atone for feelings that they may have. None of us are perfect here, and so while I don't have a wand to wave or anything, and my prayer doesn't get there any quicker than anybody else's, even though they feel that this grants them closer access to atone for anything they've done wrong. But as it relates to what we're trying to do is give people the opportunity to say, even if you feel that you've thought a certain way in the past and now you think a certain way now, bring that to the table. And what we try to do is create a space for dialogue. And so within that dialogue, we're not sitting there trying to point the finger saying anybody's wrong. But if we never bring up to the surface what is underneath, then we're really going to have a hard time moving forward. And there's going to be a lot of raw feelings and a lot of tension moving forward throughout this case. And definitely, I want to say after the verdict is read, there will probably be even more. And you may
Recording
even
in progress.
true feelings that will come up. And so being present there to offer a neutral people to talk, we feel is very important for us to do.
Father Dwayne, even from your congregation, are you sensing people being angry or frustrated with this case at all?
In my own congregation, I would say not yet, not yet. And again, maybe because it hasn't started yet. I think for my congregation, much like the family itself, the start of this trial, will hash the feelings that were there that sort of subsided because it took a while from the time that it happened in February of 2020 to where we are now, close to the end of 2021, that feelings have had time to rise and to go down, to come back up. And so I think people are now getting, as we're going into the beginning of this trial, hoping that the jury is selected and, just holding on tight and to wait and see what's going to come out and what's going to happen as we go through this process. But I haven't heard and witnessed a lot of anger. But I think we're just all sort of waiting and holding our breath as we continue to approach the beginning and eventually the end of this case.
Hoping for the best in all of this, correct? Yeah.
Yes, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And our congregation, yes, hoping for the best. But knowing that there's always, whatever the verdict may be, is going to leave some people that are not going to feel good, regardless of which way it goes. Somebody's always going to feel that justice has been served for whoever is waiting for that particular verdict. And there's also going to be a group that says that justice has not been served and they've been done wrong. And so puts clergy people in a very peculiar situation to say that we still have to minister to everyone who comes through our doors, to be able to sit there and be with you in that space of that even if you're happy, that you're still going to be sad in a way, and vice versa. If you're sad that the verdict wasn't, but you understand that this was a jury, supposedly unbiased jury that made the decision, and can you live with that decision? Hearing a guilty or not guilty doesn't end the pain, doesn't end the suffering. This is something that some people have to live with for the rest of their lives. And so myself as a clergy person, I have to be aware of that and understand that, yes, ministering to people doesn't end at the verdict. Sometimes it sort of ramps up at the verdict. And so how do you walk with people through the verdict afterwards? And so I think most of the harder work will probably come post-trial versus pre-trial, but it's good that we have a presence and people can see that we're there and that we care. They can know that it's still okay to reach out to us after things are over, when things get quiet once again.
Yeah. Um, Father Dwayne Cope, we appreciate you joining us. I know you have a previous engagement, but I do want to give you the floor. Anything at all you feel the need to add or mention before you leave us this morning?
Um, Thank you once again, but no, I think that last piece really just sort of sums everything up. That me, myself, as part of this Glynn Clergy group, that we're here um, for everyone in this community, um, to reach out to us, and that if one is busy, again, as you mentioned, there's a group of 50 of us. If one of us is busy, there's someone who is always available. And so, like I'm here right now, there's someone at the courthouse, and so we stay in constant communication with one another through text messages. So if you put the word out that there's a need that is not being met or that arises, that I am there, and my the whole group of clergy is here for everyone here in this county.
Well, Father Dwayne, again, we appreciate your time this morning, sir, and thank you so much for talking with us. If you need to go, it's quite all right. I just have a couple more minutes that I'm going to talk with everyone before trial starts. Now, folks, as if you're just now joining us, you're watching First Coast News'
Thank
online
you.
coverage of the trial of three men accused of murder in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery, Noah, just 25 years old, was shot and killed in the Satilla Shores neighborhood of Brunswick, Georgia, back in February of 2020. Now fast forward to where we are in October of 2021. Finally, his family is hopeful that they will receive justice. You just heard there from a member of a group called Glynn Clergy for Equity. It's a group of clergymen from all over Glynn County that have decided to come together to be out there pretty much every day throughout the duration of this trial, holding people's hand through this, praying for folks. When I spoke with them early last week, they say they were there to set the tone because there are a lot of demonstrators outside of the courthouse. They want things to remain peaceful. That's something that you'll hear time and time again from people in that area. They understand a lot of people want to demonstrate and protest, but they want things to remain peaceful. Again, folks, things are set to start at about 8:30 this morning. In just about a minute or so, court will resume in the jury selection process. Right now, it is week 2, day 8 of the jury selection process in this murder trial. We do know that 42 potential jurors have been chosen thus far. The magic number they're aiming to get to is 64 potential jurors. And from that pool, there will be more questioning, another round of questioning, and they're aiming to get to 12 impartial jurors with 4 alternates. That is the ultimate goal. And we're hearing from the defense just yesterday, they believe that they can get the jury selection process moving to the point to where by tomorrow, Friday, they will have the 64 selected. So we could see the opening statements as early as next week. We are all waiting to see what will happen with that. Again, folks, you're watching First Coast News' online coverage of the trial of 3 men charged in the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Court is set to resume at 8:30 right about now, so we're going to let you tune into that. Thanks for watching.